Usually when we talk about a medical diagnosis, um, there's this baseline expectation of precision.
Right, like it's almost engineering.
Exactly. Like you break your arm, the x-ray shows that jagged white line, and the doctor just points at the screen and says, well, there it is. There's the problem.
This binary.
It's broken or it's not broken. Clean, simple, actionable.
Mm.
But then you step out of the clinic and into the messy world of human behavior.
Oh, yeah, where it's never that simple.
Right. Into the daily choices we make, and suddenly that x-ray machine is just completely broken. And that's the terrifying reality we are unpacking in today's deep dive.
It really is a diagnostic nightmare, honestly.
It is. We're looking at a stack of research today. And the mission for this deep dive is to explore what happens when the mental models you use to make your biggest life choices
Have absolutely nothing to do with reality.
Yes, because we assume our perception of a problem is accurate, right? And we build our entire strategy around that assumption.
Well, we have to. I mean, we all rely on the fundamental law of cause and effect. It's how you and I organize our entire lives.
Do this, get that. Plant a seed, grow a tree, say the right supportive thing to a friend, get a positive response.
Yeah, we build our psychological, our social, even our economic systems on this incredibly solid feeling assumption. The assumption that if we just understand the causes, we can predict the effects.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the core premise we are looking at today poses this striking image from the source text that, honestly, I just haven't been able to shake.
I know exactly the one you mean.
Right. If your understanding of reality is fundamentally flawed, cause and effect isn't just slightly unreliable. It becomes completely meaningless.
You're essentially pulling levers that aren't connected to anything.
Yes, you are standing in this high-tech control room, furiously pulling levers and twisting dials, utterly exhausted. And none of those levers are connected to the actual machinery outside.
And what's fascinating here is that we have to make a distinction right away. This isn't about making a minor everyday error in judgment.
Like accidentally saying the wrong thing or, misreading a room.
Exactly. We all miscalculate. What we are talking about today is foundational misalignment.
Foundational misalignment.
Right. This happens when the root logic you are applying to a situation, like the very base level assumptions you don't even realize you are making, are completely detached from the actual territory you are standing in.
Wow. So it's like diligently applying the rule book for chess while you're sitting at a poker table.
That's a perfect way to put it.
So to understand why those levers aren't connected, we first have to look at the primary tool the human brain uses to navigate reality in the first place, which is abstraction.
Yes, we use mental models.
Mm-hmm.
There is this famous concept from the field of general semantics, coined by Alfred Korzybski.
Right, the map is not the territory.
Exactly. That phrase is a cornerstone of cognitive psychology for a very good reason. Maps are, by definition, representations.
They're compressions of reality, right?
Yeah.
Made entirely for human convenience.
Think about a standard subway map. It completely distorts geographical distance, it ignores the streets above, it leaves out the trees.
The architecture, the smell of the station, all of that.
Yeah, and that is a mathematically perfect, highly useful simplification. I mean, if you included every single detail of the city, the map would be the exact size of the city.
And therefore totally useless.
Right. The brain does the exact same thing with reality. It strips away, like, 99% of the sensory data coming at you so you can actually function without being overwhelmed.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Because a simplified map is fine. We need it to survive. But what happens when the map is structurally wrong?
That's the danger zone.
What if your map shows a massive superhighway where there's actually, I don't know, a sheer cliff drop? Imagine you are confidently navigating modern-day Rome.
Okay, I like this.
You've got your walking shoes on, you're ready for espresso, but the map in your hands is from the 15th century.
Oh, man. You are in trouble.
Right. But you are being a quote-unquote good navigator. You are following the directions perfectly. You are turning left exactly where the map says to turn left.
But you keep ending up staring at a brick wall in a dead-end alley.
Exactly. You are executing the steps flawlessly, but the map is structurally wrong.
Which highlights a deeply dangerous psychological trap from the text. There is a massive qualitative difference between having no map and having a wrong map.
Oh, wait, really? Break that down?
Well, think about the behavior of someone who is lost and knows they don't have a map. What do?
They stop walking. They look up.
Yes, they scan the horizon, they pay hyper-close attention to the environment, they look for landmarks, maybe they ask a local for help.
So the absence of a map forces them to become highly receptive to the actual reality around them.
Precisely. They become cautious and observant, their senses are wide open, but give someone a fundamentally wrong map and you give them false confidence.
Oh, I see, because they believe they understand exactly where they are.
Right. So they don't look up, they don't scan the horizon, they follow the paper in their hands faithfully, and when they end up in the wrong place, they assume they just misread the instruction.
Oh, they walk faster.
Exactly. They are not lost and aware of it, they are lost and completely certain they are right.
Lost and certain. That is such a haunting phrase. It is an active resistance to reality, not just an ignorance of it.
It really is.
So how does this actually play out? Because we aren't literally walking around with parchment maps. How does a mental map become fundamentally wrong in our daily lives?
Well, the source text breaks this down. Let's trace this from the macro level down to the micro level. At the macro level, the most common foundational misalignment is misunderstanding the nature of a system.
Okay.
This typically happens when you are trying to influence something that operates as a complex adaptive system, but your mental map treats it as a linear mechanical system.
Okay, let's ground that in everyday reality for everyone listening. It's essentially the difference between a toaster and a family.
Yes, that's a great analogy.
A toaster is a linear mechanical system. It is predictable. You push the lever down, the electrical current hits the coils, the bread heats up.
And if it's broken, you just find the one broken wire, you replace it, and it works perfectly again. A plus B equals C.
But a family dynamic, or a corporate culture, or even a romantic relationship is a complex adaptive system. It is organic.
And complex adaptive systems have totally different rules. They have homeostasis, they have self-preservation instincts, and these hidden feedback loops.
Right.
If you walk into a tense family conflict and try to make a targeted, highly logical repair intervention.
Like you're expecting a predictable mechanical outcome, like fixing that toaster.
Exactly. The system doesn't just passively accept your fix, it reacts, it adapts to your intervention.
It pushes back.
It might push back or it might just absorb the energy and mutate the conflict into, like, passive aggression.
So you push the lever down, and instead of getting toast, the toaster files for divorce.
Right.
And you're standing there shocked because you did everything quote-unquote right according to your mechanical map.
And what's crucial to understand is why the system pushed back. In a complex system, the components, meaning the people, are interconnected in ways you can't see on your simplified map.
Right. When you pull one string, you are inadvertently pulling 50 others.
Exactly. Which flows perfectly into the next layer. Because treating a group like a machine fails, but this misalignment happens one-on-one too.
Misunderstanding a person.
Yeah, we misread the individual nodes in the system. We operate off fixed images of people rather than who is actually standing in front of us.
Oh, this one is so common. Psychologists refer to this as interacting with a projection or a static memory, right?
Yes. You might be interacting with an image of your sibling from when you were both teenagers.
Or a manager might be treating an employee based on a mistake that employee made 3 years ago.
Completely blind to the skills they've developed since then.
It means all your attempts to communicate, to support them, or to motivate them are entirely doomed because you are aiming your words at a ghost.
You're talking to a version of a person who literally is not in the room.
I think of the classic scenario of a parent giving career advice to their adult child. The parent is giving objectively good advice, but it's designed for a 1990s economy.
And it's aimed at a version of their kid who hasn't existed for a decade.
Exactly. The kid gets defensive, the parent gets frustrated. The parent thinks, well, why aren't they listening?
Well, because your map of who they are is catastrophically out of date.
And that ghost concept is incredibly relevant as we move to the deepest, most insidious layer of this.
Misunderstanding yourself.
Yes. This is when you operate from a self-concept, like a deeply ingrained story about what you value, what you deserve, or what will make you happy.
A story that diverges wildly from your actual nature.
This one hits hard. It's the classic story of the young lawyer who grinds for 80 hours a week for 10 years to make partner.
Right, they sacrifice everything.
Their health, their relationships, all of it. They finally hit the goal, they get the corner office, and they sit at the desk and realize they are utterly miserable.
Because they actually hate the law. They don't care about prestige.
They were just flawlessly executing a map handed to them by their parents or by society 20 years ago.
It's a tragedy of success. You optimize perfectly for the wrong target.
Wow.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, notice what happens in all three of these scenarios. The family toaster, the ghost sibling, the miserable lawyer.
Causality itself didn't break.
Exactly. The universe is still functioning perfectly based on actions and reactions. Cause and effect works perfectly.
The lawyer put in the hours and got the promotion.
Right. The problem is that the map they used to choose their causes was so deeply flawed that the effects they achieved were entirely the wrong ones.
Okay, I have to push back here. Wait, if my map is this wrong and I'm actively miserable despite doing everything right, shouldn't my brain just naturally sound the alarm?
You'd think so.
I mean, human beings are evolutionary survival machines. We adapt. If I keep touching a hot stove, my nervous system tells me to pull my hand back.
Sure, physical pain is a very clean feedback loop.
So why doesn't my brain just go, hey, this map is terrible, let's throw it out and get a new one?
You'd think it would be that simple, but mental maps don't operate like physical pain. This introduces the psychological concept of the self-sealing model.
Self-sealing. Okay, what does that mean?
Well, when you are lost in a normal, superficial way, your feedback loop works fine. You try a new recipe, it tastes awful, you realize you added too much salt.
Next time, less salt. Clean feedback.
Exactly. But a foundational model is tied to your identity. When it fails, the feedback loop doesn't reach you cleanly. It triggers profound cognitive dissonance.
Right, cognitive dissonance. That's the physical discomfort the brain feels when it is forced to hold two conflicting truths at the same time.
Like, I am a smart, capable person colliding with my life choices are producing terrible results.
And the brain hates that discomfort.
It really does. It wants to resolve the tension immediately. So instead of undergoing the incredibly painful, destabilizing process of shattering your entire worldview,
Which takes enormous metabolic and psychological energy.
right, your brain takes the easy way out. It acts as a defense attorney for your ego. It selectively filters out the evidence of the broken map.
Wow.
And it finds a way to explain away the failure using the logic of the map itself.
So what does this all mean? It weaponizes the map to defend the map.
That is precisely what makes it self-sealing. Let's go back to your parent giving outdated advice to their adult child.
Okay.
When the child reacts poorly, the parent doesn't think, my entire understanding of my child and the modern world is flawed.
Because that's way too painful.
Exactly. Instead, their brain says kids these days are just disrespectful and don't want to listen to wisdom.
Wow. So the failure of the model is actually used as proof that the model is right.
Yes.
Like, I didn't fail. The environment failed to appreciate my brilliance.
Right. I'm not doing the wrong work. My boss is just threatened by me. Or my family isn't a complex system. They just aren't listening to my perfectly logical toaster repair instructions.
Because the explanations feel completely rational and internally consistent from inside the framework protects itself.
It seals shut. This biological defense mechanism is exactly why highly intelligent people can remain trapped in profound misalignment for decades.
Decades.
Yeah.
Just running the exact same scripts, getting the exact same frustrating results, but having perfectly logical sounding excuses for why it's always bad luck.
Or the economy, or someone else's fault.
Which means trying harder is actually the worst thing you can do. Because if you just try harder within a self-sealing map, you are just sprinting in the wrong direction and exhausting yourself faster.
Exactly. You're just doubling down.
So how do we break the seal? If I'm listening to this and realizing my maps are wrong, my instinct is to just say, fine, burn the maps. I'll just navigate entirely on gut feeling from now on.
Navigating entirely by gut feeling is a common overcorrection, but it's a trap. Gut feelings are very often just the physical manifestation of your oldest, most deeply internalized maps.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah. Your gut might be telling you to run from a healthy relationship because an old, unconscious map associates intimacy with danger. You can't just rely on raw instinct.
So what's the actual antidote?
What is actually required is what epistemologists call epistemic humility.
And let's be clear, this is not the performative humility we see on social media or in corporate meetings.
Oh, not at all.
It's not politely saying, oh, sure, I could be wrong, while secretly believing you are 100% right and changing none of your behaviors.
No, genuine epistemic humility is brutal. It is the willingness to actually sit in the physical discomfort of cognitive dissonance.
Letting your framework be dismantled.
Exactly. It's the capacity to look at your miserable outcomes and genuinely ask, are my foundational assumptions completely backward? And you have to pair that humility with a practice called direct perception.
Direct perception. Okay,
Yeah.
break down the mechanics of that. What does that actually look like in practice?
Direct perception is the act of taking in information from the territory prior to applying your map. It's closely related to phenomenology.
Which is Observing what is actually happening without immediately slapping a label on it.
Yes. If you are a manager dealing with a difficult employee, direct perception means shutting off the voice in your head that says they are lazy or
Yeah.
they are just like my last terrible hire.
So, stopping the projection machine.
Right. Instead, you just observe what are the actual words they are saying? What is their body language? What are the systemic pressures on their role right now?
You let the reality of the person teach you who they are today, rather than using them as a blank screen to project your assumptions onto.
Exactly. Let reality teach you.
Okay, but I know some people listening, especially the highly driven, goal-oriented folks, are feeling a little panicked right now.
Sir, it's a lot to process.
They hear, dismantle your framework and sit in uncertainty, and they think, does this mean giving up? Do I lose all my agency and just float through life passively reacting to things?
This raises an important question, but it gets the mechanics of leverage completely backward.
How so?
Questioning your model is absolutely not nihilism or passivity. It is the exact precondition for genuine effectiveness. Remember the control room analogy.
Pulling levers that aren't attached to anything.
Exactly. Sticking to a wrong map out of a desire to feel proactive guarantees you will remain exhausted and ineffective. You cannot move something you cannot accurately see.
Right.
If your hands are full of a 15th century map of Rome, you literally cannot grasp the modern GPS sitting right in front of you.
Oh, that's good.
When you practice direct perception, when your map finally aligns with the territory, cause and effect becomes real again. That is when you get your power back.
Because you finally find the control room that is actually hooked up to the machinery.
Precisely. Your interventions start making contact with actual literal causes. When your model closely matches reality, you gain enormous leverage.
You don't have to push the toaster lever down with all your might anymore.
Small, precise actions land with incredible impact. You aren't constantly fighting friction. You are working with the grain of reality instead of exhausting yourself wrestling with a ghost.
Working with the grain of reality, that is a massive paradigm shift. And it brings this whole abstract philosophical analysis directly into our modern obsession with self-improvement.
Oh, absolutely.
Because if you look at the multi-billion-dollar self-development industry, almost all of it is fundamentally flawed, based on what we've just discussed.
It is entirely focused on the superstructure while completely ignoring the foundation.
Right. We are constantly trying to bolt on new habits. We download the new productivity app, we start the 5 a.m. ice plunge routine, we try the new communication hack for our marriage.
Just frantically adding on to the house.
Yes, building these beautiful additions onto a house that is resting on a foundation of sand. Or worse, a foundation built on that 15th century map.
And if those root assumptions about who you are, how systems work, and what you actually need are wrong, all of that self-development is floating on a false foundation.
All those productivity hacks just help you run in the exact wrong direction much, much faster.
The real work, the deeply productive work that actually changes lives, isn't adding another habit. It is excavating the foundation itself.
Asking those hard questions.
Exactly. Pausing to ask yourself, what am I implicitly assuming about how the world works in this area of my life? Did I arrive at this assumption through direct observation, or did I just absorb it from my culture or my parents?
Right. Is this belief helping me navigate, or is it producing a consistent string of misfires?
And that's the real test.
And look, if you are listening to this deep dive right now, and you are feeling a little destabilized, well, if your stomach dropped a few minutes ago because you realized that maybe your career path or your approach to a family member is based on a fundamentally broken map, I want to offer you a deeply reassuring validation.
Yes, because that feeling of destabilization is incredibly valuable. It isn't a sign that you are failing.
No.
It isn't a sign that you were broken.
It is simply the physical sensation of cognitive dissonance finally doing its proper job. It is the growing pain of your map being actively revised to match the territory.
The feeling of waking up.
Exactly. And the best news of all, the territory itself hasn't gone anywhere. Reality is remarkably patient. It doesn't hold a grudge.
It really doesn't.
It is always right here, waiting for you to interact with it the exact moment you are ready to put down the wrong map.
The territory is always available. You just have to be willing to look at it.
You just have to look at it.
Yeah.
So as you head back into your day, your meetings, your family dinners, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over.
This is the real takeaway.
We spent a lot of time on the mechanics of the self-sealing model, how your brain acts as a defense attorney, seamlessly explaining away your failures to protect your ego. So I want you to look at your own life with fresh eyes. Identify one recurring unlucky pattern.
We all have them.
What is one area of consistent, seemingly unexplainable friction you experience? Maybe a specific type of argument you keep having, or a professional wall you keep hitting that you always brush off with a convenient external excuse. Could that recurring bout of quote-unquote bad luck actually be the territory itself screaming at you that your map is fundamentally wrong?